Hi, everyone. One of the best known characters, I think, from the Old Testament has got to be Joseph. There aren't many biblical characters that have their own Lloyd Webber musical written about them. It's a familiar story to most of us, but what I'd like to do is just really zoom in, sorry to use that pun, but to zoom in on two scenes. One, in prison. That's not quite true of us, but we're not locked up. But lockdown certainly just brings its own restrictions. There are circumstances to it that just curb our freedom in different ways for each of us. We're being limited. But we read of Joseph that the Lord was with him. He showed him kindness and gave him favor. And let's be encouraged with that God is with us. Like Joseph, we can know the kindness and the favor of God in whatever circumstance we're in at the moment. And I'm just aware that, we've all got our own challenges, but in different ways. Some of you are struggling with homeschooling, okay, and just juggling that maybe with work as well, and just other responsibilities, and each day it is a real struggle. For others of you, you are really out there on front line, and you've got those immediate head-on challenges with all the anxieties and everything that goes around that as well. And others of you maybe just life's gone very quiet at the moment, and you're struggling in different ways, and perhaps struggling with isolation or even loneliness. There are struggles because of lockdown, and because of the reason for lockdown. There are struggles, and we can find all sorts of things tough. Let's know this. As with Joseph in prison, so for us in lockdown, the Lord is with us. And we can know his kindness. We can know his favor. Jesus, his name is Emmanuel, God with us. And let's just feed on him. Let's know he's with us in the midst of whatever circumstance we're in. But also, we find that Joseph in prison, he continued to use his gifts, which is quite remarkable, seeing that got him into a bit of trouble in the past. But he actually continued to interpret dreams. You know the story. Let's be creative, and let's still be open for God to use us. In whatever ways our circumstances have changed, God's still given us the gifts he's given us. And I know some of you, we heard that on the Pastoral Encouragement last week, but just being so creative and thoughtful and God-inspired in the way that you're using your gifts. And let's learn from Joseph in that he still interpreted dreams. And there are ways God's still going to use us in lockdown. This isn't being somehow parked for however long. No, God wants to keep things ticking over in terms of us serving him and using our gifts. And then we do know that Joseph learnt patience. It's a big bit of the story. In fact, there came a point where he seemed he would be released, but then that didn't happen. He got forgotten. So if there's one word to describe Joseph's experience in prison, it would be perseverance. Not our favorite word, is it? But it is a biblical word, and it's something that God works into the lives of all of us in different ways at different times. Let's look to Jesus. He endured, he persevered for our salvation. And then let's draw on his strength. Let's know his spirit enabling us to persevere in not our locked up situation, but our lockdown situation. The second scene from Joseph's life is very different. He's out. and he feeds the nation. It's quite a remarkable role, really, of being a resource to others in a time of national crisis. Being so reminded of phrases that came from some prophetic words that Ginny, our good friend Ginny, who has been with us a number of times now, had almost 10 years ago now. One was this, I'm going to just highlight some phrases. And the overall message really was, then we're in a time to prepare. This was June 2009. This is what the sovereign law says: disaster. An unheard of disaster is coming. A despicable thing that shocks a nation, something despicable without thought for those who are vulnerable, and a great plot to bring destruction. It's quite a serious word back then, and yet, it makes us think now, doesn't it? And then she went on to have a dream where it really focused on the church's response. And I'll just read again parts of it to you. The churches were having to support people in very difficult circumstances. In the dream, something has happened, and the people in the churches are now being called rescuers, and they are supporting one another and supporting communities. They are drawing down finances, and God's people have become a people of influence and influential people. And then it goes on to say, be a prepared people, prepared in prayer, able to intercede and cry out to your God on behalf of the suffering ones, on behalf of the lost. Be a people who know how to pray without ceasing until breakthrough comes. Be prepared in your finances and become good stewards of what you have, not just as individuals, but as a people together. Be prepared to support and reach out to those who have not, have lost everything, have no way of knowing how they will eat. Be a people prepared to speak, to be those who are unashamed of the gospel, those with beautiful feet who bring good news, unafraid to declare the good works of their God, unafraid to speak truth and healing to those who are caught in the deceitfulness of the enemy and are suffering. In the final section, there's a subtle move of the enemy building up to deceive and distract the people of God, but you are to remain in the truth. That's what Joseph did. As you are to be rescuers, and the door of the rescue centres, or the Joseph barns, will soon be opened. You are still in a time of preparedness. Remember, this is over these last 10 years, and the barns are being built, acquired and stocked, and the grain is being amassed, and the time is being made ready. It's time to prepare. You will become rescuers. That was 10 years ago. And God's been doing much in the church over those times. But I do believe that now it is such a time, as was being spoken about, when actually churches are to be Joseph-like at a time of response in this national crisis. There's a specific way here at King's that we are responding to this. And I'm now going to hand over to Paul, who's going to share how the hub has now become a Joseph barn. Thanks, Paul.
Thanks, Roger. That's really helpful, and helpful to outline the Joseph prophecies and how that can affect us as a church, how it can impact us and how we change our behaviour. Last week we focused on what we as a church were doing as individuals around the town, and we celebrated the individual acts of kindness and service we're doing for our friends, families, and on our streets and villages. We're so thrilled with all that's happening and hope that our short video encouraged you and helped you as you prayed for us and prayed for each other. This week we want to focus on what we're doing corporately together to serve our town and the surrounding area. As you know, we've been distributing food to families in various ways, and we've been doing this mainly under the guise of something called Meal Share. We've been buying food from a company called Fair Share at £1 a tray, and the tray could be anything from a tray of bread to a tray of bananas to a pack of rice or whatever. It's all sorts of things that come in, but it only costs £1 a tray, and we've been buying 25 trays per week for some time now. FareShare takes food from food production organisations, places like supermarkets, farms, manufacturers, etc., that would normally go to landfill. All of it is usable and all of it is still edible. It can come from overproduction, or it can come from overordering. Or sometimes it's because the wrong packaging has been put around the product, or they've changed the packaging, or they've made a change in direction in production, or simply deleted that product. Tons of perfectly usable food goes to waste each day. FareShare takes this food and redirects it to organisations like King's so that we can distribute it locally to those that need it. You may also be aware that since the lockdown started, many more families are finding themselves in financial need. Many people have been laid off under the government's furlough scheme, but the money is slow coming through, or it's not adequate to meet their financial needs. Many have lost their job and need to access universal credit, but money takes 5 weeks to come through and only for the first 2 children. This means that there is a delay in financial aid, and if you have a large family, finance becomes very limited. There are still others who moved jobs in the recent past who find themselves in serious financial trouble. Of course, universal credit only covers a small percentage of income for most families who are not prepared for the lower income levels they now have. And not forgetting the self-employed who now find themselves with no work and no viable income. As a result, there are growing numbers of families who are having to make huge financial decisions. Should we pay the mortgage? Should we pay the rent? Should we eat? Delay payments to utility companies or put food on the table. These are some massive decisions that individuals are having to take right now. The Trestle Trust, who run the majority of food banks in the UK, have reported that the number of people visiting food banks in the UK has doubled in the past 5 weeks. These are people who, no matter how much food is in the shops, find that their income no longer matches their outgoings and find themselves struggling to make ends meet. King's has a long-standing relationship with Cumbria County Council and other organisations, and since the lockdown we've been working even closer with them to bring help to these families. At the beginning of the lockdown we were working with them to bring more food to our town and area to help families that are struggling financially. Together we agreed to become a food hub for our community, bringing in between 1 and 2 tons of food each week into the hub down in Market Street. Every Thursday, with a team of 6 volunteers, and we do follow government guidance, we've been taking 3 van loads of food, sorting it out and then allocating it to other organisations in the area that similarly help people in their communities. So we get fresh vegetables and fruit, ambient products like drinks, as well as things like dried foods like rice and pasta. We get some odd things, we get some strange things, we get all sorts of things. It comes in a big package to us and we have to sort it all out. This food is then sorted out and sent out in trays to places like Workington, Espatria and Flimby. We send out bags of food to the food bank, who use it to supplement their normal offerings. The county council also takes trays to help those who call over the weekend for emergency help. We also send out trays of food to families in the towns and villages who, for one reason or another, need some help. The numbers of families we help grows each week, and we're not expecting this to slow down at any time soon. We don't think this problem will stop once the lockdown finishes, in whatever form that takes. The economy is going to take quite some time to get moving again, and jobs are going to be hard to come by. Personal finance is going to remain tight, and for many people, this is going to be a problem for a long time to come. So we've also been buying food in as well, so that we can offer long-term help. We've stocks of all sorts of food at the hub at the moment, most of which could, if things move quicker than we think, could go to food bank or other organisations afterwards. In addition, we've been picking up food from Marks and Spencer's in Workington and Lidl here in town. Finally, we've been also handing out some pre-made meals to families, using some of the catering size quantities we've been given in the past. For example, in our freezer at the moment, we have 15 kilos of pheasant breast, and a volunteer makes those meals and we send them out at the same time as we send out the food parcels. So we've been working alongside Food Bank, Cumbria County Council, the Food Pantry at Highfield and Cumbria Community Foundation, who've also given us some funding to make all this happen. What we give out is not meant to be a weekly food shop. Rather, it's to help with fresh and dried food and, on occasion, frozen food, so that there is some finance free to help in other areas that the family needs. Please pray for us as a church as we continue to work with our colleagues in other organisations and with the families that we need to help at this time. Please pray for the families we help. Please pray that they would find the finance that they need or the help that they need to get them through these quite difficult times. And please pray for us for wisdom, that we are able to meet the need in the right sort of way at the right sort of time. Thank you for your encouragement, and thank you for your help, and thank you for the way that you pray for us.